Hello, welcome to the State of Decay 2 stream. We are your hosts, all three of us, I suppose.
That's right.
Hello.
So I'm Geoffrey Carr. This is Brant Fitzgerald.
Hello.
You guys probably know us if you've watched this before, but you might not know Leah Rivera.
Hey, Leah.
I think this
Hi,
is
everybody.
this is her second appearance on the
Yes.
stream, and we are excited to have her. She is a mission designer. She built a lot of the ambient missions in the game, some of the big story missions in the game too. So she's kind of all over the mission system. She's had her fingers in there. And so if you guys have questions about missions and the way that they work, storytelling in the game, she is a great source for answers. So get those questions in mind. In the meantime...
I've gotten fuzzy. Oh, I'm back.
Oh yeah, our we have the best equipment ever set up in this room. But Brant, hey.
Ooh.
So Brant is sitting here at, what was this, Camp Kelinqua?
You mean Kalinqua?
Kalinqua? That's what it was. People write things down.
This is why I had no
Yeah, I
idea
can't
what you were
pronounce
talking
things.
about earlier.
They're not things.
Use
Oh.
workshop. Oh, I
I'm getting
can't.
hyped.
Oh, we don't have any power.
No power.
I've been bummer because I've been playing with my my builder legacy, and I don't ever have to worry about power again.
Oh, right.
So now it's like, wait, what kind of a dump is this?
I want my
fire
pipe
shot.
bombs. I want my electric pipe bombs.
Well,
Fire Shot's losing sheriffs, apparently. I
Today-
don't know why your sheriffs are getting owned, Fire Shot. I'm sorry.
Today I want to play with Molotovs for a very special reason, but I can't right now because Geoffrey didn't prepare.
Sorry, you were the last one to play this game. I don't know
Then
what you're
I
talking
didn't
about.
prepare your game. We should be logging into my game.
Well, yeah, no, we could
Oh,
totally
you got
set
the
that up
trade
next
depot
time.
built though. Nice. Let's see what we're looking at here. We need
Oh, Intrepid. Which one? There's so many.
we need
Lots of them
materials
spawn minis out.
and meds and food.
So, Intrepid Pioneer asks, mission question, what is up with that one mission that spawns like 30 zombies?
Oh, yeah. I guess I should repeat the question, too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just answering you guys.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, we need, sorry, were you just answering it and I couldn't tell because I hadn't, okay,
Yes.
great. You go for it, sorry.
Oh, but you said the question, so that was an important step that
All right, well,
I didn't do.
what was your answer? I got distracted.
There's a lot of missions that spawn a lot of zombies. So I was just saying, I don't know which one you're talking
That
about.
one mission.
Yeah,
You know, the one mission with zombies, Leah. Come on.
they might even have been joking, I'm not sure.
Probably.
Let's scoot us over to the left side here so that we're staying out of the way of the mission HUD so we can see what's going on. So one thing we should do is we should probably go on some missions today. Like we got
Action
one.
Hero Fast Cars.
Oh, Action Hero Fast Cars.
yeah, I did that
Yeah,
one.
let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I need to
Go talk to Hayden.
switch to Hayden. Oh, Hayden's looking really good
Oh.
right now too.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Hayden, you're good. You're good to go, Hayden.
Oh yeah, he's fine.
Yeah,
he's fine.
no, he's totally good.
So Andy did something really fun with
Do we have
the
a first aid
VO
kit?
on this mission.
I'm gonna-
Is that he took into account people's ages when he was doing all of the movie quotes.
Oh
for the
really?
mission.
So it's different movie quotes depending on the age of the voice?
Yes.
Holy
So
crap!
they make references that are appropriate to their when they grew up.
Wow, so like a millennial will talk about stuff from this century, whereas somebody
Yeah.
like my age will talk about like 80s and 90s action
Yep,
movies.
Exactly.
That is
he went above and
ridiculous.
beyond on this one. And
Wow.
I
Yeah.
just used
I loved him for it.
basically the last of my meds to heal him up. So, the last of your meds, I should say.
So Farshot 513 wonders if is it possible for us to have more than one Extreme Enclave arcs in the same playthrough? Is there anything limiting that, or is it just that they're very rare?
I don't know actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think we ever did anything that explain. I think you can only have one at a time. I
Yeah.
don't know. I think it might just be chance that makes it unlikely that that more than one is gonna show up in the same playthrough.
Yeah, we weren't really. I wasn't really involved with the gating of the missions and how often they show up. I was more just make mission go.
We should get David in here sometime
I'm
to
gonna-
talk
Yeah,
about sort of
I'm
the,
yeah.
gonna take the car with
He did the
AC
pacing.
here
the car with AC. Yeah, there you go.
Oh yes.
because you got to travel in style.
That is a great plan. So Davidus asks, explain sexting as a trait. So I'm the trait guy, so that's my question.
could be pointing at
Sexting
him,
is
but
not
you
a trait.
can't.
Sexting is a skill in our game.
That's right.
Online date is the trait that gives you the sexting skill. And basically what that represents really is the idea that most of the skills that I have as a human being right now are useless in the zombie apocalypse. But I've kind of filled up my brain with them. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. And so if somebody who's in their 40s or later, who's already sort of built a career and a life in this world, if we suddenly found ourselves in another world, it would be difficult for us to become as useful as somebody who grew up there. And so what things like sexting represents is just the idea of someone being so used to the modern world that they can't get used to the zombie world, and they've got less adaptability. They've got their skill slot that they would have devoted to being more useful to their community is filled with something completely ridiculous.
That's right.
It's not very common though. We try to make most of those skills useful, but sexting and I think animal facts are the two that don't do anything. So there. That's the rationale behind them. So it gives you a hard decision to make, because when somebody like that shows up in your community, do you want to keep them around? Maybe they've got some other skill that's kind of useful, or some
Here's
other
an animal
value.
fact.
Is it-
Breakable cows.
Oh! What?
Breakable cow technology.
How did I not know we had breakable cows?
Cutting edge.
What?
I actually didn't know that either.
What the heck? I drive around them. I don't try to drive through them.
This is what happens when I was left alone at like midnight on a Tuesday. It's like, oh, well, we need breakable cows.
I just get so worried about breaking my car because I love my cars. I don't hit anything.
I was playing with friends, and I found one cow that I didn't replace on accident, and I was like, "Oh, drive over the cow," and she did, and her car blew up. And I was like, and of course she had some choice words for me.
So yeah.
True.
So I don't know. See who is where. Let's see here. Okay, Wonder's the one in Mixer. Wonder in Mixer points out that actual change list in 1.2 patch includes moved cow and also rotated cow.
That's right.
So
sometimes you just got to rotate a cow. It's
so Zantami brings up kind of an over on Mixer brings up kind of an interesting problem that we have. Like whenever you fix a bug, you have a risk that you're going to also add a bug at the same time, which is one of the reasons why we hit a point before we ship when we actually kind of lock everybody down and say, okay, nobody do any work. We're going to pick the bugs we're going to solve those bugs, and then check over everything you do, double check everything 5 times.
Yep.
And because there's such a risk of anytime you change anything in the game, there's a chance you're making as many bugs as you're fixing. And so we have to be very cautious, So whenever we patch the game, there's always a risk. I mean, we're definitely going to fix some things, some known bugs, but it's very possible that we could introduce something new. And so we try to be very cautious about it. But it's one of those realities of game development where it's hard to escape it. Like the faster we try to react, and the more Johnny on the spot we try to be with answers to your problems, the more we risk adding new problems by accident.
Yep.
But hopefully over time, the total number of bugs will still go down, and eventually we'll sort of get on top of it all, and it'll be good. But yeah, it's sorry that it works that way. Like we're really doing our best. Nobody here is slacking or trying to get out of the fact that that we really want to support this game and fix issues that you guys run into.
There's. Several rounds of fixes are already locked, and we're always doing more. So don't worry. We're going to try and get to everything, but the worst case stuff we always prioritize as best we can.
So Farshot 513 asks a mission question. Oh, by the way, Wonder and Megan, if we miss an important question, feel free to. I've got Slack open too, so you guys can tell in the live stream channel on Slack. Just let us know if we missed something, because we really want to make sure that all the big questions get answered. Anyway, what do you feel is the saddest mission that you wrote? I almost shed a tear looking for one of my survivor's son's mace.
Well, that was you.
So Son's Mace. I didn't originally make Son's Mace. I inherited Son's Mace from somebody else.
Yeah.
But then I ended up finalizing it. But yeah, what's the saddest thing that you came up with? Or
my saddest one got cut.
oh yeah. Can you give us some insight into what it was? I think people might be curious about that actually.
Yeah, it was someone looking for their birth parents.
Oh,
yeah, right. Like someone was had been adopted and was looking for who their birth parents were because it was denied them before the apocalypse, and it was their whole story about going down this memory lane of this family they never knew, and what.
Well, Son's Mace originally actually had a follow-up mission where, like, you believe your son was dead, but then there was a follow-up mission where you had a chance to find them and have them killed at the very last second right in front of you.
There is a sad follow-up that's in that is kind of like edge casey, kind of rare to find. So I'll tell you guys about that one. It's like if you find the cop brother mission and you save him, he's healthy, you take him home, and then you tell him you're not going to recruit him. You get this whole guilt mission as a follow-up of like not recruiting your brother, and he's like, remember that time when we used to go down here with Dad? And like, totaling on the guilt.
Wow, okay, that probably wins for the saddest mission in the game. And the one that I was doing, I tried to do some complicated stuff with it, and it ended up being ambitious enough that it was one of mine that got cut. And so that super sad version of Son's Mace did not make it into the final game.
So I just did it while you guys were talking about that. I just did another mission. So.
Oh, which one?
I'm just helping.
Was it amazing?
It was a siege.
Oh yeah, right. Totally.
As usual, just usual.
So Big Potatoes wonders why 10,000 zombies for the last zombie killing achievement. Honestly, it was because the previous two were 100 zombies and 1,000 zombies, and 10,000 just seemed like the next number. It really didn't go much further than that. Depending on how you play, though, I mean, some people actually do, like, he was saying that he's gone 3 out of 4 legacies, and he's still only a third of the way there to 10,000 zombies. It sounds like you might be kind of a sneaky avoidance player. There's some players who go out there and they kill as many zombies as they possibly can on every single trip. And for players like that, a lot of them actually do hit 10,000, around the time that you're at. So a lot of it really does depend on your playstyle. So the selection of 10,000 was kind of arbitrary, but at the same time, there are definitely playstyles that do get there a lot faster than others.
Yeah, I've got 100 over. I guess I've got close to 200 hours, and I'm only at 67% of that.
Oh, really?
Because I don't hit every zombie I see with the car because I need my cars to run. But there are people who will just like, oh, I see 3 zombies. I got to stop and wipe them all out, right? And boom, they're done.
So Zantame has a comment
Check about
about
a follow-up to the last one, too.
Oh, really?
If you wanna
Okay.
do that
No,
one.
go for that.
About,
What was
like,
that?
how we cut missions and who decides what missions are cut.
Oh, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so missions are cut for a lot of reasons. Like, either what we do is basically make this big list of missions, and we make them to the best of our ability at the time. And then they're played through, and some are just cut for either time reasons, or if their story is just not quite as solid as other ones. And the one I was mentioning earlier, the birth parents one, was cut because of time constraints rather than like story issues. So like we only have so much we can do by the time we're gonna launch the game. So a lot of like almost their missions tend to just get
Shunted aside.
Shunted aside, yeah.
It's usually a mix of time constraints and something else. It's like when the time constraints hit, we look at the missions to figure out which missions have problems that we just want to save ourselves from. So like ones that missions that look like they're super complicated or like they've got story problems that would take a lot of rewrites to fix.
Yeah, or VO, like if they just come in just too late for VO and they need that kind of like personalized attention, that's another reason that they can get cut too.
Oh, that was not.
So was that other one? Sorry.
Well, Zantami just wanted to bring up that their favorite mission was the Prepper Ant. Which is also one of yours, isn't
that
it?
One.
And so they said that they're just too bad that the ant's always dead. They always want to bring the ant home and have her join the community.
Well, originally I had planned a branch where she wasn't dead, but then like it
cut for time.
Yeah.
So almost you can guarantee almost any part of any game. The original version that somebody wrote down was at least twice as big, usually 3 or 4 times as big as what you actually got. And so like you talk about any feature like that, we're gonna know about 3 times as much content that we really wanted to create, and then reality hit and we realized that there's no way. There's no way. And I'm sure that's true of I'm sure that Grand Theft Auto, even with all of its budget, I'm sure that originally the story had 3 times as many missions in it, and they probably had to cut it down too. Oh, let's see here. We got some questions that we missed. From Hansa Lodolo, he asks, does driving skill affect everyone or just the character? So it is just the character. The most most skill effects that you see on a character only affect that one character. The exception to that is morale, I think, a lot of the time. If something affects morale, sometimes that actually affects the entire community. But almost everything else, if you see it on a particular character, that means it affects that particular character. Except hero bonuses. That's the other big place. All the hero bonuses are all about broad community effects, but somebody's traits and somebody's skills are almost always just about that one character. So if you've got a character with a driving skill, you want them to be the one driving the car, because then they're going to be, using a lot less gas, and the car's going to be more durable, that sort of thing.
I still haven't found one.
Is there another one over there?
Let's see. So Robbo M8 wants to know which missions, if any, were partially influenced from events in The Walking Dead. I don't think we use The Walking Dead as a specific source of inspiration.
Yeah, no.
I mean, to the degree that The Walking Dead has sort of affected just the zombie zeitgeist. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that have happened there that have become familiar, become tropes, have been they've affected the way that people in general think about zombies. That has probably affected us, but I don't think we ever modeled anything specifically after something in The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Just because we'd feel, there's so many stories you can tell in the zombie apocalypse. I think we just wanted to tell our own, right? And so I'm sure you'll find similarities because it's a similar world and
yeah,
you're
exactly.
gonna bump into the same stuff. But do you
I did not think of The Walking Dead and be like, I have the mission for this.
Yeah.
I never did that.
But it is hard to fully avoid that though, right? And it's almost to the point where there's
Zombie
no point.
culture.
Like there's no point in trying too hard to avoid it. Like you just come up with your own stories and then you expect it'll overlap sometimes a little bit, right?
That's the last of that.
Let's see
We
here.
have a zombie problem at base right now.
Oh, are they attacking? Oh, wow, we got some, let's just, get them all into one place. Oh, wait, that one's like,
I
nope.
forget who mentioned it, but I think it was Farshot asked about branching
Oh, yeah?
missions and how many missions have branches, and I'm going to say pretty much all of them.
Yeah, all of yours.
Mine.
Yeah, she makes some complicated missions with lots of contingencies.
Yeah. I
Some
think
of
my biggest one had like 32 branches or something like that. It was gross.
Yeah, so I was working on the character system at the same time that I was working on missions, and I didn't have as many assigned to me, but I did try to keep them a little bit simpler than that. But I had a few. I did the mission that we call it the Arsehole Enclave, the ones that just sit there and extort stuff from you until they eventually demand your base if you keep giving into them. And that one, I explicitly tried to come up with the simplest possible structure for it because I knew that if I let myself, the first version I did of it was so complicated I could not possibly maintain it. So I actually started it over from scratch and made a simpler version of it just so that if there were bugs, I wouldn't I could actually fix them, because the more complicated you make a mission, if you run into a bug that pervades the mission, you have to change it in 17 different places.
Yeah, that 32 branch mission, that is terrible for me. it's every time I get a bug for it, I'm like, no.
I gotta crack this thing open and figure out what I was doing, what I was thinking.
Yeah, but a lot of them are more subtle changes too. Like we have a physical branching structure when we make missions, but there's also the ability to check traits and parameters and other things like that. So there's more simple stuff you can do too. Like in one of the early warlord missions, you meet this guy who's this super cool dude, and if you blow him off in the first mission in the branch, then he's more hostile to you in the next one.
And you're just doing a simple check.
Yeah,
you're just checking a simple
check.
variable somewhere or whatever.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So there's many ranges of branching and complication that I could play with in these missions, and I tried to.
Nunsoup had a skill question. They were asking a skill book like a utilities skill book. Will it overwrite somebody's fifth skill, or will it? Yeah. So the answer is no. Once someone has a fifth skill, that is their fifth skill. In fact, we had a bug that I think we fixed in the latest patch, where if you had someone with the security guard trait, they would not have any fifth skill, and you could not even assign a skill book to them. Because the way it works is, anytime you have a trait that gives you a fifth skill, it's got a tag on it that says, you can't have any more traits like this. And so that's what keeps us from having the character generator make a character that accidentally has a bunch of extra skills, more than the UI can handle. And so for some reason, by accident, I had that same tag on the security guard trait, even though it wasn't giving you a fifth skill. And so that one trait by itself would just block fifth skills across the board and wouldn't let anybody have them. So
that's not nice.
I think that's fixed. But definitely once you got one fifth skill, that's it. You can't have any more. Intrepid Pioneer wants to know who made the Cannibal Mission, because they fed their people some snacks that they're not feeling too happy about.
Oh no!
was that one wasn't one of yours, was it? That
No,
was, yeah.
I don't know who ended up with that
was
one.
either Kale or Devin.
Devin started it, and I don't know if Devin kept that one or
if he
gave
handed it
to
off.
Kale.
He didn't give it to me.
It's not me.
It's not me. It was not us.
Kale or Devin.
So definitely let's
I know
blame Devin for that
started
one.
it, so you can blame him.
But I gotta say, I don't know who gets credit for just the fact that there's a physical object that they give you that you can feed to your community members. I think that I don't remember who came up with that, because literally everyone, when that idea came up, literally everyone was on top of it laughing their heads off. And so I think we all are responsible for getting behind that idea.
You okayed that.
I was actually watching an episode of a post-apocalyptic TV show from Denmark the other day on Netflix, because Netflix is amazing. It has TV from all over the world. Where I was like I spent the entire episode. Oh, are these cannibals? These are the cannibals, aren't they? No, well, they're not acting like no. Can't tell. Are they cannibals? You have the rain.
Whoa,
Yeah.
Yes.
whoa,
I watched that
whoa.
too. I was like, these are the cannibals.
These are the cannibals. Yeah. And by the end, I was like, yes, they were cannibals. I knew it. It's almost it's become such a trope now, right? Yeah. Because they were so smiley and happy.
I know.
Like,
Anyone happy in the apocalypse is a
got to be a cannibal.
I'd be doomed. Yeah. Everyone would think I'm a cannibal.
Yeah, let's just say we don't go to lunch with Leah.
Zantama, yeah, actually that does sound like a bug. Zantama says that there was they got a car kit mod that said it was going to add storage and then didn't. One problem is actually one of the systems that we set up in the game that was really important to us was the buff system, which is in the when we're generating a character and they've got a bunch of skills and traits and hero bonuses, and also when we're making facilities, they've got a whole bunch of actions and passive effects. All of those feed into the same system of buffs, where it's like, say, when something gives you plus 20 health, we don't have to type in, this gives you plus 20 health. We just have it give you the plus 20 health buff, and that is packaged with the text, plus 20 health. So we don't need to write that text again and again and again and again. And the reason not to do that, partly that saves us work, but partly it keeps us from screwing up.
Yes.
Because
that's why I like it more.
if the text is derived from the actual buff, then if we change the buff, it changes the text automatically. And so every time we make a change, the text changes. But there are a few places in the game where we couldn't rig that up, and one of them is the car kits. And so I'm betting there was one point where that car kit did exactly what it says it does, because that's what they typed. And then for some reason we needed to change the effect, and no one remembered to go back and change the description. And that happens. That's easy to have it happen all over the place. I just was doing some work on the skills for secret future stuff, and I found a couple of places where like a percentage that was reported in the skills was off because of like somebody had done some math shenanigans and changed something behind the scenes, but certain parts of the skills were outside the buff system and they had to have their effects entered manually. And anytime you do that, you risk mismatches.
Yeah.
Hey, Fallout Girl, I'm driving one of your cars, obviously.
Thanks, Bilbo. He said thanks for being nice and don't eat him.
We got a few folks asking about the Watchtower and the fact that characters don't seem to be using it as much as they did in the original game. That wasn't intentional. Like I think that we actually do intend for them to be using the Watchtower more than they are.
The 1.2 patch, they use them now.
They use it. Okay, so there we go. So yeah,
they should be using them again.
So there you go. Brant knows the answer. See, these bugs don't belong to any of us, and so occasionally we'll know one of us will know something about them. But yeah, it's gonna.
The big one that the people I was playing with all weekend were excited about was the flashlight working.
Oh, you mean not having weird shadows in front of it? Yeah, that's pretty nice. Wee Albert wants to know who wrote all the notes in the game. I like reading them, but do they serve any purpose other than giving backstory to the world? So there's notes and there's notes, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's mission notes and then there's other notes. And the mission designers, like Geoffrey and I, will write the mission notes. Well, the first
draft of them anyway.
first draft.
Yeah, and then Andy, our lead writer,
Yeah.
or we had another writer who was working with the missions too, Clay
Clay.
Carmouche. Those guys would come in and they'd do another revision on the notes, and sometimes they'd do a revision and would be like, oh no, you removed the one part that was actually important, and we'll negotiate about it and go back and forth. A lot of times though, they would go in and they would make it way better. I know that
They make words pretty.
for instance, I was involved in the mission that was about sort of police training, where it's like you're a character who wanted to be a cop, and this cop was your mentor, and you're going around. Oh, hello.
What is he doing here?
He's a juggernaut.
Why is he here?
Good luck.
and you're going around trying to learn to be a cop, and I had put all of this like. I have a problem as a writer, which is that I always think of like 50,000 reasons why my story might not be convincing enough, and so I'll fill it with way too many backstory details, way too many twists and turns to try to explain all of these doubts that I'm having about my own story, and it turns out most of it is completely unnecessary. And so Clay Carmouche went through there, and he just like sandblasted it all. It was like, you wanted to be a cop? You liked this one cop, he was cool. That's the story.
Done.
And honestly, it is much better now
Yes.
than it was with
They
the version that I
simplify
wrote.
very nicely.
Those notes, the notes that are not tied to any mission, the ones that are just sitting out there in the world, those are all written by Andy and Clay.
Yeah.
And so we didn't touch those at all. I think they just sort of like, here's a certain number of them you can have, and so let's just fill it up. And all it is backstory. I mean, it's very similar to a lot of the radio messages that you'll hear, which were also written by Andy.
Yep.
Andy and Clay, I believe. I think they both collaborated on that one too.
I think so.
Come on. Get inside.
A lot of those just they don't change anything about your game. They just tell you about this world and sort of flesh it out. So if you're paying attention to them, you get a better sense of what's going on the broader scale.
Well, we have really neglected this.
What do we know? The community.
I've taken for granted
You got so much stuff.
the 200 hours that I've played because I want for really nothing in my base right now except for occasionally I run out of food or something. But all the little gear that I've gathered, I have no problems finding. And now it's like not happening.
Zantame asks, why no mission to save Lily? Lily doesn't need saving. Lily's just fine. Lily's off at the network headquarters. She's okay. She doesn't need our help. And honestly, one of the things, if we want a character to persist and be a consistent part of the story over time, we actually avoid putting them in the world because everybody who comes into our world is killable. And so, if we're gonna have a character who's like shared across the entire player base, we don't want to have that character die in your game and live in somebody else's game.
Yeah.
And so we have to protect them. And so we're not gonna have you find Lily out in your world somewhere because then if you get her killed, who's this person talking to everybody else in their games? You go and visit your friend's game and then you hear Lily over the radio. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So we got to be consistent. So yeah, no mission to go save Lily.
We got Lucas in the house.
Hello, Lucas.
A credited artist on this game.
Ooh.
He provided some valuable art. All the
graffiti, the
all the
tags.
tag art.
Graffiti.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he does good graffiti. And so,
Basically, it was me being lazy and not wanting to work, so I just said, "Hey, who wants to?" And Lou's like,
Who
"I'll
wants
do
to
it."
Scribble on these buildings.
That's right.
Amy's beautiful.
We got Captain Assassin. Too many people to mention today. Thanks everybody for showing up. By the way, we really appreciate it. I'm gonna eat all the books. No, I can't. I didn't know that you could, even after you had like gotten, let's say you got the gardening skill. If you eat another book, you get a star onto your gardening.
Yeah. I think I knew that, but I don't know if I
did
oh
not.
yeah, no, that does work. Yeah, so if you got a bunch of gardening books and you've already got a gardener and they don't need it, you can just
What's
use
the
those books to level
cooldown on
it up.
that though?
I don't think there's a cooldown. I think
Because I had like 8 gardening books and it only gave me 1, and then like an hour later I came back and it let me eat it again, but not until some time had passed.
Oh, interesting. I wasn't worried about that.
Look at
That's Brian's area, so I don't know.
Oh, well, he needs to get back from vacation.
So English Bull asks if there's if we're gonna change the balance of weapon degradation. He feels like the weapons degrade too fast. Honestly, I think that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah. English Bull. I mean, it's not like he it's not like he knows what State of Decay is about. He's only been playing for 5 years. He was one of the first people to post videos.
No, he's great. I'm just giving you a little bit of crap in English Bull, but yeah, no. Right now we don't have any plans to sort of change the overall vibe of the weapon degradation system.
That got tested pretty hard.
Yeah, I think personally, in my game, I'm actually pretty satisfied with it. So I think when I said it's just your opinion, I wasn't trying to be dismissive. I really do think there's going to be a variance of opinions across a lot of different players, and it's hard to come up with like the exact right set of values that makes every single player happy. Usually, the best you can do is just sort of try to hit a sort of a target zone in the middle of the players and hope that everybody feels roughly okay with it, and there's always going to be outliers who feel like you're just way too far in one direction or another. I know that there's on a lot of aspects of the game, there's some folks who come in and say, this is way too easy, come on guys, challenge us. And there's other people who come in saying, oh my gosh, this same part of the game is super hard and I can't believe you're expecting me to be able to handle this. So, I don't know, it's a hard question to answer, so yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's tuned very much to the economy of the game too, and if we made it too easy, then you wouldn't be having to make a choice between spending your precious parts on other things, right? Or on fixing up your favorite melee or your gun or whatever. We don't want to make it too easy for you, then your videos would be boring.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta have the weapons break now and then. Nomus wants to know if we're going to add relationships between characters. So relationships are kind of tough in games like this because we do have relationships that are built into missions. Things like Cop Brother, some of the characters that you can start the game with if you play the tutorial, and a few others in the game. But it's kind of rough because it's hard to add that to the game without it becoming either really complicated or a grind, because we considered it. We talked about the possibility of having characters who go out together a lot become bonded with each other, and like XCOM 2, for instance, has a feature like that where. But you'll notice in XCOM 2, they're not just keeping track of like every relationship between every single character in the game, because that would just drive you nuts, right? They present you with opportunities to bond two characters. You consciously bond them, and even then, it's actually I keep forgetting to keep track of it. I keep sending characters out without their bond mate into missions, and it adds a layer of complexity, but it's kind of a bridge too far for some players, and so while we considered it it's hard to really having it exist on the story level within the missions kind of works, but trying to make it a mechanically relevant thing where you can just do it with any two characters based on events and mechanical stuff.
Johnny Farrell.
Adding any new layer of complexity risks just pushing the game too far, because our game does a lot of different things, right?
It does, yeah.
Like we've had a lot of conversations about an individual designer has an individual part of the game that they're over, and they want to make it super complex and interesting because it's their favorite part. It's like, this is my baby. I want to make it super interesting. And we have to consciously hold ourselves back from that because it's not just about that one part of the game. Like each of it, like you're making a bunch of missions, I'm making a character system, Brian's making a bunch of items and facilities, and Andy's writing a bunch of stuff. And if any one of us lets our thing get too big and complicated, it overshadows the rest of the game. People have to spend too much attention on one thing, and it detracts from everybody else.
And you're also adding work to other people when you make your side too big too, and then I have to account for everything you have done on this side. Right?
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
You're
that's
also
true.
handing work out.
There's some combinatorics to it, where it's like, if I made the traits like twice as complicated, then everything you do with traits in the missions becomes twice as complicated for you. And so if we suddenly added relationships, like everything you were already doing with relationships, like in the story, now you would have to make them mechanically relevant. You have to go back and redo all of that work.
Exactly.
And it wouldn't necessarily work with every mission. Some missions would have to be like scrapped? I don't even know, right? Like,
We do try to do like at least little nods to the relationships we set up in the tutorial. Like
Yeah, that's true.
Some missions like specifically cast for those people and give them special dialogue and stuff like that. So we do try to support the missions that we did put, or the relationships that we did put in the game.
yeah, but like yeah, we don't have any plans to add an entirely new mechanic for it.
It's a whole system.
Come on, get off of there.
Get ready. Port incoming.
There we go.
So Bilbo wants to know if we can add something where you can optionally have Lily berate you for everything going wrong in your base. We've got so many people already berating you for what's wrong with your base. I don't think that's necessary. We just spread it out around multiple characters so that nobody would become the target of people's resentment. Yes, so Ablative Meat Shield, the Shady Mechanic trait, is supposed to lock your mechanic skill. So it gives you the mechanic skill, but it locks it at 5 because that trait means you're not just an auto mechanic. You're an auto mechanic who deliberately did not like his job and just tried to get as much money out of people as possible, but didn't actually like fixing cars. And so because you're that kind of character, we capped the skill, so you can't actually become super good at it. And so it's interesting. I thought that those kinds of skills. There's lots of traits like that in the game that give you, like Plant Murderer. I think is one of my favorite ones. Serial Plant Murderer, which is like it gives you the gardening skill because you love gardening, but you actually kill everything that you garden, and so you can only get a couple of stars in it. And and that means you can never progress to herbalism or agriculture because you're capped at a low number of stars. And so that means maybe the hope was that maybe sometimes that would be the only gardener you could find, and so now you've got an interesting community where it's like you've got a gardener, but they're kind of capped, so you're still kind of looking for another gardener, but not quite. Like it's not. It makes it so it's not just like black and white. Oh, I've got a gardener, or I don't have a gardener. It's like we wanted a middle ground where you sort of have a gardener, and so that's what that provides.
I got us a new recruit, and
Nice.
she's gonna go out and
let's see her.
immediately earn her respect. Let's see what she's got here.
There was a question earlier about, I forgot who it was, I'm sorry, but about how do you tell when something's a legacy mission? And with legacy missions, they'll all be prefaced by the leader type, so it'll be like builder,
Sheriff
blah,
Colin.
Sheriff, blah, yeah.
Stargazer.
Warlord. I think they also have their own section too in the mission list. So
Okay,
they're-
so she's a stargazer.
They're
That gave her the scouting skill, I believe, because she likes to kind of pinpoint things in the sky. A brush clearer probably gave him that high fighting skill, and probably I'm betting that once you max out fighting, swordplay is going to be one of your options because you're a brush clearer. And then watch sports gave you the sports trivia skill, which is whatever it is.
Important.
That's a very important skill.
She's gonna go solo some
Pour one for me.
plague hearts.
Oh, nice. You gonna equip her for that, or?
Yeah.
Oh, you got some pretty sweet guns here, actually.
This is nothing. Come on, Geoffrey. I got some sweet guns, but look at how many bullets. I got like 4. So yeah.
You got a bunch of the ammo resource, though. You could sort. Get a bunch.
I could just go make some too.
You also have no meds at all.
I know.
That's why your characters aren't getting any better. Real Zombie wants to know if we're planning on adding more faces and clothes to the game. I can't make any specific promises about that because definitely each thing we add has a cost. Trying to it affects memory, it affects a lot of different things, and it takes a bunch of time. But
we already have tons of faces like scanned. It's just
kind of waiting to go, right? Waiting
Yeah.
to fit into the game and waiting to have time from our character team to build them up. But I would not put it past us, though. I mean, we definitely would love to do that. So while I can't make any specific promises, we've got a lot of ideas along those lines. So yeah, I certainly hope so.
Yeah, you guys should know by now that we can't and won't promise anything until it's in the game, right? Because we're not interested in being the company
I'm
that
gonna need a
promises
lighter
the moon
load
and
soon.
doesn't deliver anything. So
Yeah. Zantame is wondering about sorting ammo. Right now, you can't sort items in your supply locker.
this is something I actually brought up last week, and we're talking about it very seriously.
Yeah. So again, no promises, but yeah, we've I think I wrote a bug for it too. We have noticed and are hoping we can do something about that. Because specifically the gun section, like when you're trying to match up a gun to an ammo type, it can be a lot of back and forth, especially if you're playing with a controller. So we understand that can be a hassle. Any more mission questions, guys?
Well, Farshad asked about mission spoilers for future content.
We're not going to be spoiling any future
spoil
content.
my missions, you guys.
Let's see here. Ratchet Gabriel asks, will there be guard dogs? So, four-legged animals are actually really hard.
There are no regular dogs, let alone guard dogs.
Yeah, and the only four-legged creature we have in the game is the feral, because he gets down on his hands and knees when he's running.
Could you imagine a dog on the feral rig?
But he doesn't just try to trot around on his legs like normal, because trying to get like an animal with 4 feet to stand on a slope and look good can be it's just a giant engineering headache to try to make a model, a character that knows how to respond to slopes when it's long and skinny instead of tall.
And every unique rig is a massive expenditure of memory.
Yeah. So unlikely that we're going to get quadruped creatures into this game. The fact, one great thing about zombies is that they have 2 legs like humans. And so once you solve the problem of how do my humans stand on slopes, how do they get over objects, things like that, you've solved it for everyone in a zombie game, instead of needing to solve it separately for the aliens or dragons or monsters or whatever it is else that you've got in a particular game. Or robots. Depends on the kind of robot, I guess, huh?
Oh, now you're putting conditions on it?
So, Alfred Ben has an amazing suggestion, which is, can y'all change the dialogue so it's not always negative when you lose supplies? Like maybe, hey, we found a hurt rabbit and gave him some help, -1 meds or something like that. It's so...
I think I would get mad at them too.
Yeah. Why aren't we dining on rabbit soup right now?
That is an amazing suggestion.
Meds and food.
I might copy and paste that and send it to Andy and see what he thinks.
Totally.
So, did Leah create a mission that went too far and got cut?
I don't know what went too far means.
Maybe murdered somebody too meanly,
I do
cruelly.
murder people a lot in my missions. I did Warlord, guys, so yeah.
So I know I had a mission once that got cut where it was like one of your characters in your community admits to having previously been a raider. And so they had like a team of their old group came back and they were trying to pull them away, and there was a good chance of that character either getting kidnapped or getting pulled back into the life or something like that. And so basically I would arbitrarily choose one of your characters and pull them out of your community and take them away from you and possibly have them betray you. And that was a little bit too...
steal people.
Yeah, that was a little bit too much because you feel like, your characters, while they're characters in a story, they're also a commodity and a strategy that you have.
Yeah.
So using a story to just arbitrarily take one from you felt like it was too far. Mm-hmm. I know that's probably not the kind of too far you're talking about. You're probably talking about eating babies or something like that. Ooh. But that's not our style, so that's the kind of too far you're going to get.
Yeah. Also, I more often got things cut for not being able to, give the emotional impact that I needed to do than going too far into a thing. Oftentimes I couldn't go far enough, and then it got cut.
Yeah, you've got an idea that if this was a movie or a novel, you could write whatever you want, right? But trying to make certain things happen, they're holding this character hostage at gunpoint, you got to rescue them. Well, that's the whole mechanic.
Yeah, totally.
Trying to have hostages in the game, so yeah.
Or big emotional moments, between family members. I had one where a parent found a kid and one of the branches was that they were plagued, and then you could have the option to euthanize them right there, and then and then their parent was standing there, and so I couldn't pay that off, right?
Yeah, especially because
it was too hard.
It's a big open world game, and we don't have cutscenes. And even if we had cutscenes, it would be hard to make cutscenes that could work in any random building throughout the game, right, or any random setting.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of those emotional moments, games handle them as cutscenes so that they can control for stuff like, I'm actually just rolling around in a circle.
Yeah. And
during the cutscene.
They're written specifically for those scenes too, which totally you can do a lot if you have the VO and the time and the budget to write specific scenes for that stuff. Yeah. But we worked a lot with the more procedural content and voice and stories and stuff. So it's hard to hit those really big moments with that. So
Yeah.
I spy a screen.
So Omega Queen's got a feature suggestion. Can there be missions that have us find Mastercraft weapon schematics that we can build in the Forge? That's an interesting idea. I don't know if it might be technically feasible. I don't know. We'd have to ask Brian. But that isn't something we have done or planned for, certainly. But that's an interesting idea, and you know, we'll have Brian watch this stream and
yeah.
and see if there's a way we can do that sort of thing. But my saying we'll see, that does not mean we're going to do it. So just want to be really clear about your expectations here. When something like so. We've got this, we're sitting in this building full of 60 very clever game developers that we are honored to work with. And the problem with ideas is that everybody's got a bunch. And so, like, you guys can suggest, like, brilliant freaking ideas that we just absolutely love. Like, oh man, it would be amazing if we put that in the game. And then we walk out that door over there, and then there's also 60 other people saying, oh, I've got an awesome idea for the game too, and I work at this company. And so... and so
Doesn't always give them more weight.
Doesn't always give them more weight because it's all about the quality of the idea.
Exactly.
But there's just a lot of them. There's an awful lot of them. Is all I'm saying. So we're gonna try to
That's what our forums are for too. You can visit our Discord.
Come to our Discord.
I read it. I'm silent, but I read it.
Yeah, no, and I read it too. And there's been several people who've found bugs or made suggestions that they communicated with us, and they ended up going right into somebody's queue. So So we definitely pay attention. I just want to set your expectations appropriately because there's a lot of sources of a lot of ideas, and so even if you have the best idea, it's sitting there in a crowd of thousands. So Farshot wants to know if we can hire them to play this game from home.
Yes, for free.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what hire means.
Actually, there's
Internship.
there's a training fee. It's called go out and buy the collector or the Ultimate Edition, and then play it for like 900 hours, and then you'll have passed, and then we won't hire you.
Folks have been asking about if there's going to be any trade options in the game, anything for making it easier to transfer resources and stuff like that between players. We haven't announced anything along those lines, but that's a good idea. Thanks for suggesting it.
I spent the weekend helping Fallout Girl work on a couple of her legacies, and she finished one, and we were going to transfer maps. And all four of us, or the three other people playing in her game, we all loaded up with her gear that she wanted to transfer to the new map. So she was able to start
with a bunch of stuff.
With a bunch of stuff.
That's awesome.
Which, is jeez, what did I do? Hold on.
So, Fancy Shark ran into one of my missions. Where an enclave stole meds from another enclave. So I told the thieves to just give it back, and they acted like it was all good, and then they shot us on the way out.
Nice.
That's an example of a mission branch, where sometimes they do that, and sometimes they don't. If they did it all the time, then nobody would ever choose that option anymore. So there's just a certain percentage chance that they're just going to be giant jerks and shoot you for the meds.
It's funny, the people I play with will sometimes, like, if we go to one of those missions where you don't know, we'll all line up in like defensive positions before you talk to them, just to be ready. I've been having so much fun playing online.
We've got Oni Storm is offering advice in the chat in Mixer for people who are facing some bugs with legacies and things like that. One of the things that's actually really nice about our Discord is the fact that once a lot of the hardcore players have been playing for a little while, we stopped needing to answer questions anymore. Like, a lot of them have really great answers to the questions people have about the game, and so if you come, I'm sure that. That Wonder and Megan could provide you guys with links or whatever. But if you want to come and join our Discord, if you're not there already, it's a great source for answers to questions. Even when we're not available, even if it's in the middle of the night and none of us are at the office, you can still get answers to your questions from other people who've been playing the game for hundreds of hours already.
You're the boss.
So Fiddlesticks wonders if we're ever going to release a mode where you have to be the zombie in somebody else's game.
Are you what?
Where you can control a feral or something like
that
that.
would
That's
That'd be funny.
that sounds funny and also difficult.
And also, like, so completely, you could totally troll your friends' games.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, ferals were they were not designed for when you're designing a human character that's going to be controlled by a player. You build all of their abilities around the buttons and sticks that the player has. Yeah. But the feral is not built that way. The feral makes decisions based on what the feral knows how to do. And trying to put the player in charge of the feral when it can do things like, like jump up on walls and doing all these weird things that humans don't normally do, it's like making the, just the player controlling element of the game, it's like making it all over again. If we were going to try to make the feral do that stuff. Or make you able to control a juggernaut.
Plus,
or something like that.
You need to develop a taste for sweetbreads.
Yeah. Exactly. One thing I do like about death in our game, though, is that the camera stays on the character while they turn into a zombie.
Yeah.
So you can sort of watch that happen a little bit. But like once you're a zombie, you don't have any free will, and so the controller represents your personal free will as a sentient human being. And so we can't let zombies have that. Zombies just behave automatically. They're just they're pretty much dead. They're like robots.
Okay, dude. If you want me to come help, you need to actually help me.
He's in the middle.
Yeah, you notice I let him be the... Oh, I am doing terribly.
So, AB Select Start wonders, will we ever learn why some people turn into ferals and bloaters? So those questions came up a lot in some of the dialogue in State of Decay Lifeline. That was actually kind of a personal interest of Sasquatch. Like he was always wondering, why are all these why are these freaks all different in all these weird ways? They don't make any sense. And kind of lampshading some of the weirdness about some of our zombies. But no, we haven't answered that question yet. And it's still an open question what we are going to answer. We're definitely one thing we don't want to do is there's a lot of stories out there in the media of TV shows, movies, and things like that where they set up a whole bunch of mysteries and promise that they're going to answer them, and then whenever they do answer them, the answer's unsatisfying to a big chunk of their audience. And that's kind of inevitable. It's like everybody's different. Everybody's got sort of a different preset in their head for like what they're going to like and what they're going to not. And a lot of times, you have to very carefully decide what you're going to reveal and what you're not going to reveal. Because if you reveal something and then half of your players don't like it, well, then you just messed up the story for them that before had been mysterious and cool. Now it's just lame. Now it's, zombies are made out of midichlorians. And like, it's just, it got, I didn't mean to pick out a specific one. But yeah, so sometimes things are better mysterious, and so while we might have some answers for that question in our heads, I don't know if we ever want to make an answer canon. So we'll have to see about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I won't answer that either.
Let's see here.
There's a certain amount of nice not knowing, right? Because so many of our successful stories are what people make up. They fill in the blanks. Like they look at their character. One of the coolest things I'm noticing online is people like really paying attention to the personality of their character based on the traits that Geoffrey put in, and then they're building a personality around this person, and then filling in the gaps of the story, like their place in the base and things like that.
What everyone else thinks of them. And,
I'm absolutely loving it, right?
Yeah, so but that that means you got to have a certain amount of negative space in your story to sort of to provide that. So yeah, so it's actually you have to kind of carefully decide when you're making a story like this, what questions are you going to answer and what questions are you not going to answer, and then you have to try to set people's expectations accordingly. Like. If we made our entire story feel like it's about the mystery of how do these zombies work and where do they come from and can we solve it? Like, if we made the story about that, then it would feel unsatisfying when we didn't answer the question. But I don't think our story is about that. I think our story is about how are these people going to survive? What if the world we live in suddenly got 100 times more dangerous and more difficult to survive? who would make it and how, and what would it mean to live in a community together, and all those are the questions of the game, and none of those have anything to do with the mysteries, the details of how the zombies work.
And you also have to think about like what they would know too. Like you're playing in the perspective of these survivors that you're meeting out in random in the world. So like, what would they know about how freaks are made? You know, and that's what we can tell you, which is very little right now.
And honestly, it's fun to tease you guys, right? Because we're bullies.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Prime Ian, or is that Prime Lan? Hard to tell. WPG asks, was it an oversight that zombies can't climb ladders, or was it a safe spot for players to hide from them? No, it was not an oversight. That was like, we read, what was it? Zombie Survival Guide. You know, one of the big pieces of advice in there was find a second-story house and destroy the staircase because zombies can't climb stuff, and because it takes too much planning to be able to like figure out how to find handholds and things like that. So,
well, and I mean, from a gameplay standpoint, I can't handle games that are 100% on all the time. Right? It's nice to have those moments of sheer terror punctuated with some rest, because then you can think about what you just made it through, and so we absolutely needed to have places where players could even have a brief, respite.
Yeah, as a player of the original game, but I didn't work on the original game. One of my favorite memorable moments, and I still remember now, which is like 6 years later, was 5 years later. Was playing. I was playing as Ed. I was going back to get Mr. Ritter's watch, and I ended up in I did not expect the sheer number of zombies that filled up that ranger station when I came over there. And so I got their attention, thought I was going to fight them, and I had to run away. And I ran away, and I think I climbed up. Was it a water tower that's right next to me? Climbed up the water tower, and they couldn't follow me up there. And the ground under the water tower was just full of zombies, and I was stranded up there, and I couldn't do anything, and I was just like, ah! So eventually, I jumped over their heads and ran away. I shot as many as I could first until I ran out of bullets, and I jumped over their heads and got away. But like, that moment wouldn't have existed if zombies could just climb ladders. They would have just murdered me. But instead, I had more options than just run away.
This is the first time I've found this gun.
Oh wow! Eat somebody sawed off.
Yeah, I mean, it's not...
You've already got a semi-automatic shotgun.
It's not nearly as good as the one I had, but come on. It's new.
So Godzilla over in Mixer asks, what's the greatest challenging thing in mission design? And I think the most challenging thing for me is figuring out how to break it after I've made it.
Right? Because you think of
build this thing, right?
And you think of the ideal way through it.
Yes.
And then you got to think of all the ways that a player would mess it up.
So what if the player kills this NPC? Or what if the player dies in the middle of it? And so you have to handle all those cases and try to think of all the little things that could go wrong in this mission, and how can you make that seem nice, ideally, or at least handle it.
I'm gonna need to break in here now that I have a Molotov. Mm-hmm. I am able to properly.
I'll go after these guys.
Pay my respects to.
Oh my gosh!
Except.
So somebody had a question about cars getting stuck. They're like, "Hey, how come cars can get stuck?" And
what? It's not stuck.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
You got to work it, or else bring a rescue car, which I always. In multiplayer, we always have a backup car ready to ram the other one back onto the road. I would like to. I need to find. Oh, you know what? That bloater is probably a good target. The SOD community lost a valued member this morning. Big Ed, 1948. Some of you guys may know from his constant streaming of the original game. He passed away this morning, and it's incredibly sad. It was difficult news to get. But a couple of years ago, I had asked Ed if I could brand his favorite weapon in the game, which happens to be Molotovs, if I could put his brand on it. And he was like, I don't know why anybody would do that, but sure. So I'm going to pay homage to Ed by, as soon as I get rid of the zombie, using his favorite weapon to kill some zombies.
And also set one of your friends on fire.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's
State of Decay.
State of Decay. But Ed, you're sorely missed, my friend. You taught a lot of people how to play, and rest in peace, my friend.
Yeah, and as he was facing some difficult medical problems leading up to the end, like the amount of support that the State of Decay community showed him, contributing to helping him with his medical bills and with other problems that he was having, it was really inspiring to see how he inspired so many people to rally together and be kind to one another and offer hope in a way that not every game fandom does very well, and so he was a really big inspiration. So yeah, he will be sorely missed.
Thank you, SOD family, for taking care of one of our own. He was incredibly appreciative of what we were able to help him out with. And again, big loss to the community. So many people know him. But yeah, there's the sad news today. But he is. I'm glad that between the weapon that's in his name, and then Luke did some tag art for him in various places in the world as well. So if you see tag art called Big Ed, pour a shot on the ground because that was somebody really near and dear to this community.
So there have been other questions we haven't had time to get to, and I'm sorry if we didn't get to your questions. But I think rather than just sort of going back to business, I think we'll probably wrap it up on that note. So thank you to everybody who's been on Twitch talking to us. Thank you to everybody who's been on Mixer, and thank you so much, all of you, for buying and playing the game and letting us continue to make this weird thing that we're all in love with, and especially thank you to Leah for coming and talking about mission design. And yeah, I guess we'll say goodbye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thanks.